they here? Okay, let me make you, okay, where are they? There's Lucas. Promote to panelists. Where's Mohammed? I hope we didn't lose him. Hi, looks like someone was accessing our Zoom account. So we're just gonna have to try this again. Okay, so Mary, I need to make you host, or you're already host?
I'm already host.
Okay, great. And then maybe Lucas, we can try your video again to make sure it works.
Yeah, can you see me?
I can see you, yes, and I can hear you. I can
Awesome.
hear you, Mohammed. Okay.
Can I get the permission to share the screen again, please? Awesome, thank you.
You can't see anything, Lucas. Well, while we're waiting for that, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, here we are. Okay. Perfect. Thank you all for joining us. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. I'm Nancy Mancias, a campaign organizer with Code Pink, and this is on the ground in Iraqi Kurdistan. To learn more about Code Pink, you can go to codepink.org. That's codepink.org. We will be broadcasting live on YouTube. So happy St. Patrick's Day. Great day to show solidarity with the people of Ireland. And every day is a good day to show solidarity with the people of Kurdistan, in particular, those in Iraqi Kurdistan. Our guests today are Mohammed and Lukasz, both with the Christian Peacemaker Team. Welcome, Mohammed and Lukasz. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we will do our best to get them answered. But before we get started in our presentation, I wanted to ask you, Lukasz and Mohammed, this week marks the 18th anniversary of the US invasion of Iraq. Can you talk about maybe where Christian Peacemaker Team was during the lead up to the war and how it may have affected your members, and any thoughts and reflection on the invasion?
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much for the invitation to our Code Pink partners and having us here with Mohammed. I can maybe share a little bit about where CPT was in the moment of the invasion, and then maybe I can invite Mohammed to share perspective from Kurdistan. CPT came with a group of activists to Iraq in 2002 in the run up to the war with the hopes of preventing the invasion and also of protecting civilian infrastructure. Then during the invasion, CPT continued its presence in Baghdad, and after things went very bad, and many organizations moved to this secure, like protected zones by military, CPT continued to partner with local Iraqi people, and 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 through this we were able to start learning what the US and the coalition forces were doing in prisons, and those night raids, kicking out the door, smashing everything, taking men from the houses, then people disappearing and not being able to be found. And so CPT became one of the and in that moment the only organization that was able to find some of those people that were abducted by the forces, and eventually this led up to interviewing people, and CPT was able to write a report that actually started to be shared with the government officials, with different organizations, and with the media. And this was one of those first reports that led to eventually to bringing to light all those tortures that the US forces were doing in the prisons. This unfortunately also led to a kidnapping of our team members. There were 4 of them, and one of them, Tom Fox, was found killed. And this actually is also an anniversary of 15 years of this this assassination of Tom Fox. We just were remembering this several days ago, also in March. So this that's it. The kidnapping and also the what followed up, and CPT became very well known, and so for our Iraqi partners, this was it became to be a bit it became to be dangerous to associate with CPT. And so actually CPT in that moment decided to leave Iraq, but we have been reinvited by someone who knew CPT well to the north of Iraq, to the Kurdistan region, where we actually then started to establish ourselves in 2006. And I think that then this will be the history that we will share more, Mohammed and I, about what the team has been doing in Kurdistan.
Great. Mohammed, is there anything that you would like to add?
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Lukasz. Hello, everyone. This is Mohammed from Iraqi Kurdistan. I'm living in a town called Slemani. Actually, I just want to add that what I remember at that time in 2003, when we hear that the US is coming to Iraq to liberate, to bring democracy, to bring freedom, to bring justice. But like I would say at that time, the majority of the Kurdish people at that time, even we were very hopeful, and we thought that this time the regime will disappear and there will be a new Iraq, and there will be a new democracy for the country. There will be freedom, there will be justice. But unfortunately, what we are seeing now is really opposite what we were dreaming about, or what we were promised about from the US. Until now, people in general in Iraq, we are suffering because of, we have a saying, we say that at that time there were one dictatorship, but right now we have thousands of dictators. So what I'm trying to say, that it's not really what we were expected as people in general in Iraq, and especially the Kurdish, because at that time Kurdish people in north of Iraq, or what is known Iraqi Kurdistan, since 1991 we had our own somehow autonomy or independence to not be part of the regime at that time. So there were a lot of hopes built, but unfortunately still we are suffering because of injustice, because of the lack of transparency, because of the lack of services, like basic services, like such as electric, water, all these things. And that is what we what makes people really disappointed about the outcome of the U.S. invasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed, for sharing that. And for people who are joining us, this is On the Ground in Iraqi Kurdistan with Lukasz and Mohammed. We're the Christian Peacemaker Team. Just talked a little bit about the 18th anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Lukasz and Mohammed to just give us a presentation, bring us up to date on your campaigns and what exactly is currently happening there on the ground.
Lukasz, you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we can maybe start sharing about the work that CPT does in supporting civil rights activists and independent journalists. So Mohammed, if you would like to lead that part, it will be great. Thank you.
Sure. Just give a very brief history how CPT moved to Iraqi Kurdistan after we said that's when the violations started to be escalated in the middle and the south of Iraq, especially in 2004. So CPT, based on an invitation by some activists, they were studying in US when they met CPT for the first time. So they invited CPT to come to Iraqi Kurdistan and to learn about the situation there and try to work here. And it was a good response from CPT in 2006 when they sent the delegations to Iraqi Kurdistan. And I personally met CPT for the first time in 2007. So since then, I am with CPT and I know this organization and I work with them and we work together. And also, like, it was at that time, what I remember, we mostly focused on the issue of the cross-border bombing was happening for decades, and especially by Turkey and Iran. But later we will talk more about that, which is also another area of work that CPT is working in Iraqi Kurdistan, is working with the civil society organizations and activists, that is one of our main area of work that we build partnership, we build relationship with civil society organizations and activists, especially those who are really seeking for justice, seeking for freedom of expression. So CPT since then, especially our main, let's say our main relationship started with some of them in Suleimani here in my town, which is CPT office is also located here. It started in 2011 when there were a protest going on here, especially after the Arab Spring at that time in 2010 when it started. And then the people here in solidarity with those protests were going on at that time. For example, this is an image or a picture of that time. As you see, the people were gathering in a square in the center of the downtown or the bazaar, and for 62 days. And the authority were bringing soldiers, different types of armed groups to kind of like to not let the protesters to march or to go different areas in the town. So. And at that time, many kind of violations started, and then people being shot or killed. And then there were a group of activists, as you see in the wearing the white vest. So this is called peace fence. So they create this peace fence between the protesters and the military. So CPT joined this peace fence at that time, and that was kind of the beginning of building partnership with activists and civil society organizations to prevent the military to not attack the protesters or to harm them. And it works, actually, it works. But again, because of the different types of violence used by the authorities. Somehow the protester, they decided like they because people killed, like people injured, you know, by like they were shooting at the people. So that makes people more angry. Anyway, so then we now right now CPT is part of a federation of NGOs, which is CPT is a member. It's a majority, like there are local organizations who are having this federation, and CPT is a member of this federation. Together we are working, collaborating, and supporting each other. And also I want to mention another group, which is or organization, ICSSI, Iraqi Civil Society Solidarity Initiatives, which is also together we are running different types of campaigns. For example, we have one campaign about cross-border bombing. It's called here as now Stop the Bombing, and also we are right now, actually at this moment, we are trying to expand this campaign to make it more internationally, to include different types of international organizations. That's together we can put more pressure on Turkey and Iran to stop those cross-border bombing. So again, also together we are collaborating to advocate for the rights of the journalists, independent journalists and civil society activists, because it is very, very needed here in Iraqi Kurdistan that we as activists, I mean local people as activists here, many times they feel very lonely. They need international organizations, groups, activists to be with them and to hear their stories. Because just to be honest, like it is not the same to be an activist here in Iraq to compare it to be an activist in US or in Europe. It's two completely different, two different like activism work, because there are a lot of threats to be an activist here in Iraq. And like also in the few years ago, like last year, there were lots of demonstrations happening in Baghdad, and how the authority very harshly responds to the protesters. They killed them. More than 300 activists, I mean protesters, killed in Iraq. And also here recently, like in December 2020, like here in my town in Suleimani, there were also more demonstrations happen in December, more than 9 people killed. So that is why it's very, very dangerous to be an activist. It's very, very dangerous to be an independent journalist, to not be part of the those medias that the political parties own. So if you are doing something beyond that, or if you want to be independent and to criticize what the government doing, to criticize what the political parties, or especially those who are rolling the government, it is very risky. So this is why CPT and the other international organizations very, very needed to see that and to provide more support for the local activists and journalists. So like recently, our partners, we have like five activists, which is 2 of them are independent journalists and 3 of them are civil society activists, are arrested since last year, and after they spent 5 months as a detainees, you know, and then recently last month on February 16th, they sentenced for 6 years, because they accuse them that these activists, they spoke to the international organizations and the consulates. Like this is like everyone shocked here, including us as CPT, because some of them, they spoke to us. We are international organization, and even we have registrations, like we are registered with the Iraqi Kurdistan government to work here. And they are accusing these activists that because they spoke to the international organizations, because they spoke to the consulates, and despite that, in addition, also they accuse them that they espionage, or they are spying, because they were using their positions as activists or as journalists to create an armed group, or to fight against the government, which is, though, like we as CPT, when we present in the 2 days trial to observe the process of the trial. So that was something like we observed how these people are really been accused by the Security Council here that these people are spying for one of the region countries, or these people are trying to organize an armed groups to attack embassies, to attack foreigners' buildings. So, and the evidence where those evidence being presented to the court are very, very weak evidence. Like, for example, these people, they were creating a group chat or a Facebook Messenger group, just, to exchange some information about for their journalism work, and to organize demonstrations. Like, unfortunately, here in Iraqi Kurdistan, again, it's not like in US or in Europe. When you want to create or to organize the demonstrations, you need to have a permission, okay? And then in 48 hours, if you didn't get response from or permission, then you are not allowed to do this. Or like we have a law which is preventing people to not peacefully gather, even if they apply. So these people are just trying to organize like a gathering. We call it gathering, not a protest, not marching. Just to gather in a park in some place, just to like read a statement or make a press conference. So this is how these people being arrested and being sentenced, and these things are really needs to go out, needs the activists and the civil society organization around the world to know this. And we are very grateful that right now there are several international organizations are really talking about this. Consulates publish statements. The local media here are majority, are really talking about this issue, and there are a lot of not a lot of, but still there are mostly it's inside Iraqi Kurdistan, there are pressures, but we need, international pressure. But when we talk about international pressures, like what I'm trying to connect it with, like, for example, when they say, oh, there is a Al-Qaeda in Iraq, oh, ISIS is in Iraq. So then the superpower countries, US, and they send troops, right? So they send troops to prevent those terrorist groups. But what I'm saying, we need international support. We need international people, activists, journalists, or civil society organizations to come here, not their troops, not the troops of the states, not the troops of those governments to come and create a war. No, we don't want that. We want people to support us, not the military levels, not the state levels. We need people to do that. Sorry, I think I talked a lot. Lukasz, if you want to add anything more.
Thank you. It's very worrying what is happening now, and what the security forces are using against civil rights activists and journalists in Kurdistan. Because in the past, there is in the last 10 years, a number of journalists were killed. They were assassinated. Some of them disappeared and their bodies were found. And many people were put in jails and threatened, tortured. But this time, what actually is happening is that the political party that has power in that part of Kurdistan actually decided to put a group of people on the trial, and the trial that was completely manipulated has actually the court has decided that they are terrorists. I mean, they are saboteurs, they are spies, and the law of national security was used against them. And so actually this is the first time that we are seeing this happening in Kurdistan, and it's very scary. It's really, really worrying what can happen. And so we as Mohammed is saying, we hope that also this will cause even bigger outcry. There is a big outcry in Kurdistan right now from parliament members, from judges, from organizations. Even the consulate spoke up against it because their charge was and the accusation was the spying and for speaking to consulates about human rights and to other organizations. And so actually there is a big outcry, but maybe what also we're hoping is that the outcry grows and that it becomes much stronger. And as Mohammed says, like that this brings even stronger solidarity with civil rights activists and women rights activists, human rights activists, and defenders in Kurdistan, and independent journalists as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you all for sharing what is happening there on the ground. And one thing that you said, Mohammed, that really sort of made my my heart sink was that you feel lonely there. And I just want to let you know that that even though we are thousands and thousands of miles away from Iraqi Kurdistan, you're always in our hearts and in our minds. And although you may feel alone, you are not alone in our and you're in our thoughts. But soon, hopefully, for those of us who have traveled to Iraqi Kurdistan, we can rejoin you and support you. But I'm just curious to know, is there something that we can do to support you from afar? We're all in quarantine, shelter-in-place orders because of the coronavirus. What can folks do who are, say, in Western Europe or even North America? What would you recommend that we do to support you?
Thank you, Nancy. Actually, it is true, like, because, like part of our work as CPT, we host delegation like twice per year. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we couldn't host any for 2020. And we are not sure what will be the situation for this year. But of course, back to your question, what you can do. Like, I'm really feel very happy when, for example, this webinar that I'm talking with Code Pink, this is a very big step. This is a very encouraging for me and for the other activists here and for the other organizations that now our voice is going out and now our voice is being heard by other activists, by other organizations. We need to do more. We need to have more webinar, have more seminar, have more be able to connect with the other organization, with the other activists. And also it is very, like, right now we are having a campaign. For example, we are asking people outside of Iraqi Kurdistan to send letters to their consulate in Iraq and in Iraqi Kurdistan in solidarity with the prisoners. So that is one thing that people can write a letter to their consulate in Iraqi Kurdistan. For example, like sometimes here when we do an action in front of the United Nations compound or other organizations who are related with the human rights. Like, it would be great, for example, if a group of people can unite to do some actions at anywhere around the world in solidarity of any activist or journalists who have been sentenced here, who have been violence used against them. So there are different types, and it's kind of, again, it's based on the situation of where you are at and what is the situation of the pandemic there. And it's very great, like, to keep sending emails, letters to to the officials, either in United States or in Europe, the government, because these governments like needs to know what is really going on here. Because my government is telling them everything is perfect here, but people need to break that. We as people, we need to tell our government, your government, that no, everything is not okay there. There are human rights violations. There are people are being kidnapped. There are people are being assassinated and tortured. So we need to keep telling them what is going on here. Okay.
Thank you, Mohammed. Lukasz, is there anything that you would like to add?
I put the link to our campaign that Mohammed mentioned in the chat. And also we would maybe one other possibility and one other step could be if we would like to invite you for a webinar that we are the woman journalist Nias Abdullah, who is speaking to the media, is actually going to speak more about the freedom of press and human rights in Kurdistan. So she will be one of our speakers at the CPT Iraqi Kurdistan webinar next month on the 29th of April. And she's also one of the people that has been has received many threats for her work as a journalist and as a civil rights activist.
Thank you so much. And then folks can go to cpt.org to sign up for webinars. Is that the best place for them to go? Okay, great. I just wanted to switch gears and talk a little bit. You brought up the cross-border bombings that are happening. If maybe you can expand a little bit on that campaign and the role of Turkey and Iran in relation to those bombings.
Thank you so much. Documenting the Turkish bombings has become kind of one of the main areas of CPT work in Iraqi Kurdistan since 2007. And that is very closely related with the US invasion. Because after US and the coalition forces took over control over Iraq, they also took control over the airspace. And Turkey has made a deal with the United States in pursuing their military campaigns against the Kurdistan Workers Party, which they consider as terrorists. It's a Kurdish armed resistance group fighting for rights of Kurdish people in Turkey and in other parts of in other countries as well. So most of their fighters have established their camps and bases and training camps in Iraqi Kurdistan, but already since the late 80s, beginning of the 90s. As Mohammed was talking about how Kurdistan became a largely autonomous area of Iraq, in this time, PKK took over control of some of the mountains, big mountains on the borders with Iran and Turkey. And it was also during the first invasion of US to Iraq, then the sanctions that killed more than 500,000 people, right? And then the no-fly zone that supposedly US and British air forces were keeping. However, already in that time, Turkey started to fly and bomb. So much later, years after that, there came out some reports of eyewitness of the people who were involved, of the pilots or of the operators of the radars, who were saying, we received an order to turn off the radars. And then when we turned them back on and the US and British fighter jets started to fly, they just saw burning villages underneath, right? And those were the results of the Turkish bombing. So then when during the 2003 invasion, Turkey ceased its operations, but they reestablished them in 2007 under the permission of the US again. And in 2007, Turkish forces invaded into Iraq. They went deep into the Kurdistan territory. They reinforced some of their bases. They had there since the 90s already. And they restarted their bombing campaigns again. I would like to show you maybe a few photos of the results of the bombing campaigns, if that's okay.
Great.
And I will share my screen again. And so the Turkish forces are running like hundreds, are conducting hundreds of bombings a year. This bombing is supposedly and officially is targeting armed groups, and supposedly is protecting Turkey from violence. However, what happens is that, as we know, everywhere where there are bombings and where there is where one country is attacking another, the results are this. So, bombed homes, destroyed villages. Since Turkey started its campaigns, as about 500 villages have been wiped out, and either burned or destroyed, or people had to move out because the life there was not livable anymore. In some of the bombings, people died and families died in the cars, just going from their field back to their home. Like in this car, 7 family members were trying to get home in the evening. Many people have been killed, including Dunya Rashid, who was a 19-year-old student who just went to pick some herbs and plants on the mountain because they were able to cook them and also to make a little bit of money for their family. And Turkey killed Dunya with a mortar. A lot of agriculture, like hectares and hectares of agriculture are destroyed. And Turkish campaigns usually start in the spring of Kurdistan. So when people start going to the fields, like Kak Ibrahim, that is here in the photo, who has a field of cucumbers, but what you see behind are other fields that are completely burned. And so Turkish bombing starts in the spring. It culminates in the summer months, so about June, July, when the majority of people are working in the land and trying to harvest, and also thousands of shepherd families, who take care of sheep and goats, go up to the mountains as well. So they are bombed. And then over winter, usually the bombings become less and less, and then again in the spring again. The bombings happen at any moment. So this is a photo from one village that is called Shamirebatke, where people were just in their field, and then they just hear the whoosh, whizzing sound and an explosion, right? And then shrapnels fly all around, damage the homes. Shamirebatke is a village that only a few families stayed because other families had to go to protect their children because of the possibility of the bombing at any time. There were several bombings in few months following each other. That's a school that has been hit by several rockets. And what made the war much worse, and I know that Codepink is a lot involved in anti-drone campaigns. So I would like to also share this picture of the Turkish drone that Turkey developed several years ago and started to use them like more and more in 2016 and 17 and 18. And now, at this moment, a lot of the bombings are actually done by this drone. That is a Turkish-made drone. It's called Bayraktar TB2, and it's the first armed Turkish drone that Turkey is using. And they're highly efficient. They're cheaper than the US-made drones. I mean, US has been supporting Turkey with intelligence, right, with permissions to fly and bomb, and also drone intelligence. So we know of 35 young people who were working as traders on the border that were killed because US drones spotted them, gave information to Turkey. Turkish fighter jets killed 35 people. Now, since Turkey really created its own military drone, most of the bombings happen this way, right? And as other countries who are the leaders in the drone wars, which Turkey now is actually becoming as well, because already they are trading those drones with other countries. And these drones Turkey used not only in Kurdistan of Iraq, but also in Syria and recently in Karabakh, to actually supporting the Azerbaijani forces taking over Karabakh with those drones. And because of those drones, actually Azerbaijan won that war. So we, and as all the countries are saying, with drones, things are safer, right? The contrast, it's not true, of course, the other part is true. I would like to share this map with you. It's a map of people that are killed and injured by Turkish, mostly airstrikes, some of them by artillery shelling, in Iraqi Kurdistan since 2015. And that's since when CPTB had started to really keep like a precise or as much as precise documentation of those attacks. Many of those people died because of the drone bombings, many of them. And like just last year, one person that died, one person that died was a shop owner who had 2 children. He just went on a road that has been, it's a main road between two regions. He saw a friend, they stopped by the road, to say hi, they just parked the cars, and they were bombed by a drone without any military target next to them. Another bombing was a bombing of a family. So there was Peyman Talip. She was trying to make some money for her family and also for her studies to become a teacher. While she was in her store, in her shop, a grocery store that was in a place with many families picnicking, because there is a river, some trees, people who went there for a day off work. And while she was serving customers in the store, Turkish drone bombed the store. Peyman lost a leg in the bombing, was badly injured. Her children and husband ended up with pieces of shrapnel in their bodies. Their whole livelihood is destroyed. And so that's what we know, and you know as well as Code Pink very well, and also many of people who are on this webinar and are listening to us, is that drones make the wars worse. And instead of making things safer, no, they make them worse. And they actually, Turkey, the civilian casualty rate has grown since Turkey has been using the drones. So as CPT, we meet with people who have been bombed, with our family members. We visit the communities. We collect data. We start sharing the stories of what happens to people. We amplify people's voices who have been impacted by those bombings. We are also probably at the moment the only organization that really builds long-term partnerships with the communities and with the families. As part of those partnerships, we accompany people to meet with government officials, to go to meet with representatives of foreign governments. And also, we bring together some of the families and we run a campaign that Mohammed mentioned that is called the Hear Us Now, Stop the Bombing. That's where the families from different regions that haven't met before came together and started sharing what happened to them, and also started working together to end those bombings and to receive support from the Kurdistan government and Iraqi government. Our latest action that we actually have about this, and we would like to, I will just put a link in the chat, and we would like to ask you, as many of you are from the United States, if you could please send a letter to a State Department representative for Near East. We are asking for diplomacy, not weapons. So USA already stopped the sale of F-35 fighter jets to Turkey. However, there is still some of the bombs that Turkey is using are made in the US. Some parts, like parts of the Bayraktar, are actually, some of them are from Canada, some of them are from Germany, some of them are from other countries. And the BEA systems, based in the UK, are actually working together in Turkey with Turkish military now to create its own fighter jets that will replace, or follow the path of Bayraktar, of the drone, and as well be Turkish made in Turkey with many parts and components and like know-how from other countries, but to be its own fighter jet. So I will as we continue, I will share the link to our action.
Thank you so much, Lukasz, for that background on the bombing. And just looking at the map there, it almost looks as if there's an encroachment on the land, like from Turkey in those bombings. It almost looks like a land grab, although I'm not quite sure what the intention is of Turkey, and who knows what's going on in Erdogan's mind. But I do want to say that you did mention that the U.S. has stopped selling or put a halt on the F-35s to Turkey. For those of you on the call probably know that the U.S. is the largest supplier of military weaponry in the world. So we do have a petition, a letter to President Biden to urge President Erdogan to stop the Turkish air war in northern Iraq, and that the U.S. government could take immediate steps to pressure the Turkish government to stop the bombing. So we do have that petition, and I will put that in the chat to you all. But I just wanted to see, you had mentioned reports is something that you all produce. Are there any reports that you will be producing? I saw the sort of infographic of the bombing, but is there anything in the future that we should be on the lookout for?
At the moment, we focused a lot on supporting the partners who are in prison and hoping for that the appeal court will change the decision, and also we've been taking part in the outcry of the court decision, and as we are now as the pandemic is somehow receding as well, and so we will restart the visits to the communities, because for a while we haven't been able to go out of the possibility to bring COVID-19 to the communities. That many of them are remote and far up, high up in mountains. But we are in touch with the families. Actually, there was the Turkey did a several day very intense action in February. That targeted one mountain range, and our partners could actually see helicopters with special forces flying overhead, and they could hear bombings for several days. The action ended with Turkey retrieving, as they say, 13 bodies of Turkish citizens who Turkey claims PKK executed, and PKK claims Turkey killed in the bombings. And that is something that kind of brews now, growing because Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is using this as getting points for other military interventions and other action and other attacks on Kurdistan. So we will see there is a very high possibility that Turkey will restart a new military action, possibly on the ground. Like at the moment already, Turkey has more than 40 bases and outposts in Iraqi Kurdistan, up to like 30 miles deep in the Kurdistan territory. They actually control some of the territories, like up to like about 20 miles from the border. They have complete control. We have some partners living in those places. It's very difficult to get there. And from the village, you can actually look around and you can see 13 bases and outposts of Turkey there. And people go to their fields, and if they leave with further than a certain perimeter, they will be shot at by Turkish soldiers from the bases, like either with grenades or with bullets. And that, like, it's very silent what has been happening there. Like there's a lot, maybe much more media attention, and people know more about what happened in Syria and in the northern eastern Syria and the Turkish invasion there and taking big part of a territory. Actually, with the yes of Europe and US, but in Iraqi Kurdistan, it's happening as well a lot. Like Turkey controls big swaths of the territory now. So
Yeah.
there might be there might be things new coming, and as things come, we will be writing about this for sure with the team, as we are connected with many people living in those areas.
Great. Mohammed, is there anything that you would like to add?
Maybe just briefly, thank you, Lucas, for sharing that. Just also, like, it's very important to mention that, like, it's not only the bombing, it's not only causing the killing and the injuring the civilians in the area, it's also damaging the traditional lives of the villagers. Like, we've been here from villagers, they had to leave because they are trying to find a safe area for their family, for their kids. But because of their lifestyle, they want to live in a farm, you know, in a village. But when they go to move to live in a city or to a bigger town, that is very very heartbreaking. They don't like this type of life. They don't want to live like this, and they have to find different types of jobs. Like, I remember once I hear from one of our partners said that, I don't care even if I go to sell clinics or cigarettes on a street, but because I want my kids to be safe. And this is why I don't have any other options. I have to leave everything behind myself just for the sake of the safety of my kids. And also, this bombing or any wars around the world is creating migrants. Like, Turkey is doing this to make people in Iraq and Kurdistan and in Syria to leave their country. And when they leave their country, they need either to go to Europe or to US or for any other country around the world. And then at the same time, those countries, they don't want people to come to their country. Like, just imagine that there is a war in your country and the other country, they don't let you to come in and they don't give you asylum or wherever. And also, Turkey is using this as a card against Europe. Like, for example, many times we hear that Turkey is putting pressure on European Union that they will open the border and they will let every single migrants to go to Europe. And that is the card is Turkey is using to make the European countries silent about what Turkey is doing, of killing Kurds or killing other people, you know. So then that is, again, it's become like a political game between the countries or between those who are in power, and because of the other interests, other benefits, so they choose to be silent about what those governments are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And wow, 40 bases in just Iraqi Kurdistan by the Turkish government is just new news to me, and probably to some of our panelists, our participants who are watching this webinar. I'm aware of time because we started late. We're going to go over a little bit. I hope that's okay. I just wanted to talk about the latest headlines, if that's okay, and the situation where the bombing in Erbil. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? Because since being here in the US, we have a very Western perspective in our media, and at times we're not really told the full truth. So I just wanted to see if there's anything that you'd like to highlight or share with us.
Mohammed, would you like to?
Please go ahead, Lucas.
I can share some, and maybe Mohammed can then
Okay.
can add. It's a part of a much. I mean, what happened in Erbil is a part of a long-term going on tensions or tension. Well, it's more than tensions, but the conflict between USA and Iran. So many of the militias that operate in Iraq now are backed up by Iran, or were created in Iran with during the war on ISIS, on Islamic State. So then they and as the Daesh Islamic State forces lost the territory they controlled and became now functioning more as a guerrilla force that actually still attacks villages and convoys and people. So they still continue to operate. The militia backed by Iran ended up controlling big territory themselves. So now Iraqi government, which also has in many ways has a big part of the government has ties with Iran, very friendly, is somehow trying to control the Shia militias now that are there, and they are quite autonomous on the government decisions. So many of them of the militias are for obvious reasons opposed to any U.S. presence in Iraq, and so for over about a year and a half now have been occasional attacks. So from the militias attack U.S. convoys or transports bringing things for U.S. bases in Iraq, or attack the bases. And so it is actually what happened in Erbil is quite common. It's been happening a lot around different bases in Iraq. It was the fact that it targeted Erbil is quite unique, but those rockets attacking bases have been happening all over Iraq now. And especially it escalated after the US drones killed the General Suleiman from Iran at the end of 2019. And so it's one killing, attack, another attack, and actually US drones continue to bomb the Shia militias in Syria, on the Syrian-Iraqi border in Iraq. So it's happening as well. It continues. I mean, a year ago, we were very worried about the possible escalation and possible breakout of an open war, which would happen in Iraq. Like it would destroy Iraq even more, and it would hit Kurdistan very, very badly. So we're really, really worried about a year ago. Now we're not, I think, so worried about this anymore, but we don't know what's going to happen, really. And so the work you do in the US is very important as well. And the US forces have been kind of, some of them, as much as we know, did withdraw from the bases more in the south and move to Erbil. Okay, so it is like there is some movement within the US forces, as much as we know as well.
Actually, for adding what Lukasz said, like it is, yeah, like Iraq is between Iran and US, you know. Like we are between the two big fires, or whatever, how to name it, I don't know, but like each of them, each country, or Iran and US, they are showing their power. They are trying to show their power in Iraq, not within their country, not within their the way they run the country. You know, like they use Iraq to show that power. And of course, all these rockets, one from there, one from here, it's happening. It's just to show power. That's, hey, I am here. I know what you are doing. Hey, I'm here. You know, like just to show that we are not silent. We are not closing eyes because what you are doing. We know what you are doing. And also like it is very, like, it's very hard for people like to really even understand what is Iran and US want from each other. Like we don't know, like we don't understand really what is their issue. You know, like can someone tell us what is the issue? What is your issue? You know, like, come on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious, Mohammed. And I think some of us here in the US are asking, what is your issue? Why don't you stop your pissing contest? And why don't you come to the table and, like adults, have a talk? There's probably more at play that's beyond what we know. But yeah, what is your issue? Just going back to, the anniversary of 18th anniversary of the Iraq War, we have always said, U.S. troops out of Iraq, but yet they still maintain a presence in that region. So I do see that there was a question in the chat box, and I don't want to neglect Kathy's question. Her question is, should Canadians write to their consulate in Jordan is there a new consulate in Iraqi Kurdistan or Iraq?
Actually, there is, even in Kurdistan, we even were able to have a meeting with the consul representatives to talk about the bombings in the past. So we, in the letter to support the 5 prisoners from Badinan, there is also an email through which the consulate could be contacted. So thank you, Kathy, for this.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I just want to thank you, Lukasz and Mohammed, for being here, and the Christian Peacemaker Team for your continued work. And I just send you blessings and strength. And thank you so much for all your courage and your humanitarian, your human rights advocacy and work there in Iraqi Kurdistan. The work you do is just unbelievable and admirable. And I'm just looking forward to join the next delegation to Iraqi Kurdistan. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very, very nice to be here. And it's an amazing opportunity. We are hoping that we could meet more often.
It's a date. We'll plan another one. Okay, be safe, Mohammed. Be safe, Lukasz. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.